tonight on First at 9, this Sunday the 29th of September 2024. Equity through education. Government will eliminate disparities within the education system, asserts the Prime Minister. Open the coffers. President approves the release of funds for the parliamentary election. Innovative security will eliminate non-traditional threats to national security as soon as possible, assures the Defence Secretary.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක. කොහොමද? ඒනං ස්වදේශී ඔරිජිනල් කොහොඹම තමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Sri Lanka's premier primetime English news bulletin, Derana First at 9. I'm Tarindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and from around the world. Taking you through your headline stories this evening, Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya highlighted that education is a key area that her government will prioritise and asserted that the new administration will re-establish the people's trust in Sri Lanka's education system. Addressing an event in Colombo, the Prime Minister, who also serves as the Minister of Education, assured that the government will eliminate all disparities within the education system and ensure equal education opportunities for every Sri Lankan youth. A conference of principals of national schools was held yesterday at Ananda College, Colombo, under the patronage of Prime Minister Dr. Harini Amarasuriya.
Education is a key area to which we will give the highest priority. As you know, there are several issues in the current education system. One of the main problems that we see in the education system is that the trust in the education system has broken. As in many other areas of our society, people no longer trust that these systems will work for them. Children no longer believe in the importance of education, nor do they feel as committed to the education system as perhaps a generation ago. So we need to change this. We need to establish trust in the system again. We need to make sure that children feel excited about their education, that parents are able to hand over their children to the education system and have the faith that the education system will deliver. For all these reasons, we think establishing that trust in the education system is critical. We also know that there are huge disparities, inequalities in the education system. There shouldn't be a division within the school system. So our intention is to make sure that all schools deliver the best for all children. Our education system was regarded as an example by the rest of the world. We have delivered on our education system previously. Sadly, in the last several decades, we have not fulfilled that promise of our education system. We need to recover it and we need to improve on what we have. We recognize that this problem has not been created by the responsibility lies fairly with successive political leadership. I invite you all to work with us to bring our country and our education system to the place that it really deserves and to a point where we can once again be proud of not just our education system but also our country.
Horizon Campus 2024 Intake 2. Register now.
Now, newly appointed Acting Inspector General of Police, DIG Priyantha Veerasuriya stated that the Yuktiya operation, which was launched to curb the island-wide distribution of narcotic substances, will continue, adding that additional police personnel will be deployed to bolster operational capacity. Meanwhile, the newly appointed Defence Secretary, retired Air Vice Marshal Sampath Tuyakonta, asserted that all non-traditional threats to national security will be eliminated under the leadership of President Anura Kumara Dissanayaka.
Newly appointed Acting Inspector General of Police, Senior DIG Priyantha Veerasuriya visited the temple of Toothwellik in Kandy and invoked blessings.
පසුගිය සමයේ යුක්තිය මෙහිම ක්‍රියාත්මක වුණා. නමුත් දැන් පොඩි ඒක අඩුවක් දක්නට ලැබෙන.
පොලිසිය දිගින් දිගටම
The police was continuously engaged in operations. A certain amount of the department's personnel were deployed for the Yukti operation. During the operation, we observed the weaknesses of each division. The police will continue operations in accordance with the powers vested in the department while addressing the observed weaknesses. We will continue the operation with an increased capacity by deploying a large number of police personnel, by directing personnel who are currently performing other duties to this operation.
Meanwhile, newly appointed Defence Secretary, retired Air Vice Marshal Sampath Thuyakonta, also visited the Temple of Toothwellik and sought blessings.
The President has vested me with a great responsibility. I came to seek blessings after accepting that responsibility. We have identified all manner of threats to national security. Under the leadership of the President, we expect to eliminate threats which are non-traditional in nature as soon as possible. Now, while highlighting that leakages exist in relation to the budget allocated for the country's national security, National Executive Committee member of the National People's Power, Chaturanga Abesinghe, says his government plans to reduce the budgetary allocation on national security gradually and allocate these savings for education and health. Joining our current affairs program at Hyde Park within the Ivariya Muwatta, Abesinghe has said the NPP government will follow a non-aligned foreign policy and added that the wind power plant project in the north, which was awarded to India's Adani, will be subjected to a review. Now, while commenting on the trade policy of the NPP, Abesinghe noted that his government is keen to enter underdeveloped markets such as Africa in order to expand trade.
Reduction in the budget for national security. But Sri Lanka has continuously discussed, at least in mainstream politics, that national security should be beefed up. How do you plan to balance the threat geopolitically and internally, considering what Sri Lanka is
so national security does not necessarily mean the amount of money you spent on it. So we are spending 550 billion on the budget, and we are well aware of the leakages in that system as well. But at the same time, if you really look at where the investment should have gone, has not gone. Our Air Force has not got the right equipment, flying hours, the maintenance has not taken place. Our naval technology has not got improved. Even we allocate that amount of money. So we need to reallocate where it's necessary, and unnecessary expenditure has to come down over a period of time, and that savings will move into education and health. But in terms of the national security of strengthening the army, police and the naval from a technological perspective and the strength of the forces, that we won't compromise at any time.
What will really be the foreign policy, especially concerning strategic investments and balancing the superpowers?
We have been very clear that we will follow an unaligned foreign policy, and we clearly understand the Indian economic, we are in the Indian economic zone, and we have been having dialogue with India for the last 1.5 years, and very positive vibes in terms of not only investments but also to bring technology to governance. We have been having very good discussions with India. At the same time, China has also pledged their full support. Most of the countries now already has pledged their full support to the new president, and we would use it based on our national development plan. That is what we told them. And also we have clearly said we would not allow things that is not beneficial for Sri Lanka. For example, before the election we said we will review the Adani agreement, and we've been upfront about it. But at the same time that we have been explaining to the Indian government the reasons why we oppose it. So similarly, we will ensure that the interest of the country is safeguarded, and we would be open to work with any country who will come forward in terms of jointly growing this nation.
When you talk about reviewing some of these investments, does it mean that this might even send the wrong signals to investors, especially affecting foreign direct investment?
No, there was no foreign direct investments thus far. It was actually deals. Even Adani was not came through a bidding process. So you talk about Europe, you talk about green bonds, you talk about green funds, you talk about New Zealand, Japan, why they are not coming into Sri Lanka. We never had a process, a transparent process for investment. So I think it will be more positive when the government is strongly saying, you know, anyone who comes, this is our plan, this is the one we need for technology, this is money we need for capital, this is the money we need for market expansion. here is opportunity. We want to open it for everyone. And in terms of government to government programs, we will see how we will balance the power off in terms of what kind of projects that we will go for G2G. And thus far, this transparency had not been there. Agreements have been signed even without presenting to Parliament, and people has not been made aware why this investment is required, for what, which area. These are never discussed, and some of the investment opportunities were never presented to local investors as well. So, for example, this wind power, the investment that is planned, it is not an investment that has been made. It's a plan, 450 million. When we opened up for a 100 megawatt bid, the cost came down to $0.4 through 3 local bidders. Investors will always look at stability, transparency, and the long-term policy of the country. And we feel there will be a lot of confidence in investing.
Going forward, what will be the emphasis given to trade negotiations, especially trade pacts?
It is very important, because if you really look at Sri Lanka, we don't have right agreements with the developed world. We have a trade agreement with India. We have one with Pakistan. We have one with Bangladesh. It's not about the trade agreement. It's about what do you do with the trade agreement. So if you have a good portfolio of products, if you know what's in the pipeline, that is where you strategically invest in a trade agreement. Unless if you don't have that strategy of growth, strategy of production, strategy of innovation, what will happen is those countries will keep sending goods to us. We don't have enough products. Now, if I give example of the Indian one, which is a very good agreement that to have, but the problem is our products are not at that quality standards to send to India. It's a huge market. Most of our brands are trying to go in but fail. Now, we had a chat with Indian government also that they will also facilitate to have a certification process in Sri Lanka with their support. Sri Lankan products, so that they won't get bottlenecked at the port. So when you say trade agreements and pacts, it has to be an overall strategy in terms of where we are going, why we are going, what are we producing, and how the government is supporting those production in terms of inputs, in terms of technology, in terms of research. So if you don't have that piece right, just signing agreement does not grow countries. We can learn from South Korea, we can learn from Vietnam, we can learn from other countries. Now even Bangladesh is in trouble and people are looking for other alternative places, but Sri Lanka is not still positioned to bring down that order book, right? It's still going to East Asia. So we have to strategically look at what kind of agreements that we will get into and why. At the same time, we are very keen to get into underdeveloped markets which are growing, like Africa, to see whether we can establish ourselves early in the game.
Now, in your election updates, President Anurukumara Dissanayake has approved the release of approximately 11 billion rupees of funds, which is expected to be incurred for the coming parliamentary election. Commissioner General of Elections Saman Sriratnayake stated that with the disbursement of the funds, the Election Commission will be able to commence preliminary preparations for the election.
2 discussions regarding the preliminary stages of the parliamentary election were held at the Election Secretariat in Rajagiriya yesterday. The first was a meeting of the district secretaries and assistant district secretaries, which was also attended by the chairman of the Election Commission, R.M.A.L. Ratnayaka. Additionally, another discussion was held between the Election Commission, district returning officers and deputy and assistant election commissioners. During the meeting, it was revealed that the President has signed the warrant of payment to release the approximately 11 billion rupees expected to be incurred for the election.
Nominations will be accepted from the 4th of October until 12 noon on the 11th of October. Deposits will also be accepted until 12 noon on the 11th of October. Only independent groups need place deposits for this election. Additionally, postal voting applications will be accepted from the 1st to the 8th of October. According to our estimates, holding this election in 2025 will incur an expense of 11 billion rupees. It has been reported that the President has already signed the warrant of release for the funds that will be required initially.
A short break now, and we will join you once again with the latest political developments ahead of the election.
Star dishwasher Dali Tel Indul Pahasuwen Sede. Star dishwasher Magic Tub එක.
Crunchy goodness for hunger on the go.
Welcome back. Now, internal sources within the United National Party revealed that the discussions between the UNP and the Samagi Jana Balawegaya to form an alliance ahead of the parliamentary election are likely to fall apart due to certain conditions which cannot be agreed upon by both parties. Meanwhile, attending a meeting in Colombo, leader of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya, Sajith Premadasa, asserted that he and his party will not engage in politics based on envy, hypocrisy and hatred.
With the announcement of the general election, the United National Party on several occasions held discussions with the Samagi Jana Balawegaya to contest the parliamentary election together by forming a new alliance. Following 8 rounds of negotiations between the two political parties, a crisis has emerged after the Samagi Jana Balawegaya presented 2 conditions to which they seek the concurrence of the UNP prior to contesting together. Among the various proposals of the SJB, they have proposed to contest the general election under the SJB symbol telephone, and that the party leader of the UNP, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe, should not be a member of the new alliance. The SJB have also suggested that opposition leader Sajith Premadasa be appointed as the leader of the new alliance from which they are contesting the general election. However, the UNP has expressed its objection to the proposals. Against this backdrop, it is reported that further deliberations into the matter are difficult. Meanwhile, during yesterday's Nellore constituency meeting of the UNP, all members have approved the proposal that former President Ranil Wickremesinghe should remain as the UNP's party leader.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ විදියට අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙන්නේ පුළුවන් තරම් පුළුල් සංවිධානයක් යටතේ තරඟ කරන්න. එතනදී තම තමන්ගේ පුද්ගලික අභිලාෂයන් පැත්තකට තියලා පොදු අභිලාෂයන් වලට එකතු වෙන්න පුළුවන් කණ්ඩායම් එකතු කරගෙන අපි තරඟ කරන්න බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා.
However, former UNP parliamentarian Saman Ratnapriya said that further negotiations between the UNP and SJB are possible in future.
We are ready to contest the general election under an alliance led by former President Ranil Wickremesinghe. We have already discussed with the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. We are expecting a favourable outcome from those discussions.
Meanwhile, the former SJB MP Harshana Rajakaruna commented on the amalgamation of the UNP and SJB following SJB meeting in Gampaha.
On various occasions, we have asked former President Ranil Wickremesinghe to step down with dignity. However, he did not act accordingly. The only political party that welcomes UNP members with open arms no matter what is the Samagi Jana Balawegaya. We invite all of them to join us. They have different conditions. There is a group which does not impose any conditions. They can join us. We clearly ask them to give us the UNP leadership without any conditions. However, the UNP leader is not yet ready to pass on his power.
Meanwhile, during a meeting of the Tamil Progressive Alliance today, leader of the party Mano Ganeshan revealed his party's stance on the upcoming general election. In the meantime, spokesperson of the Ilange Tamil Arasu Katchi, former MP President's Council M.A. Sumantiran revealed that the Tamil National Alliance led by ITAC is considering contesting in areas outside the north and east where Tamil communities reside.
දමල ජනතා ජීවත් වන අනිත් ප්‍රදේශවලටත් එතරම් අපි තරංග කරනවද නැත්ද කියන තීරණය ගැන අපි සලකා බලනවා කියලා තීරණයක් අරන් තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Samagi Jana Balawegaya leader Sajith Premadasa attended a party meeting to pay gratitude to SJB party members for their contributions during the presidential poll.
We are not requesting your mandate in the general election to ensure our personal betterment by leading the country towards its downfall, but to develop this country through the implementation of various principles and plans. We will not engage in politics based on envy, hypocrisy and hatred.
Now, the results of the GCE ordinary level examination were released at midnight yesterday. The Department of Examination stated that 13,309 candidates have obtained A passes for all 9 subjects in this year's examination. A total of 452,979 applicants face the GCE ordinary level examination this year, out of which 387,648 were school applicants, while 65,331 were private candidates. The examination was conducted at 3,527 examination centres across the island from the 6th to the 15th of May. Malsha Kumaratunga of Sangamita Balika Vidyalaya Galle secured the island first rank and Kuluni Metsala of Musaeus College Colombo was the island second. The examinations department notified that applications for the re-scrutiny of results will be accepted from the 1st to the 14th of October. And with that, here's a look at more local news across the island in brief.
The headless remains of a person were found in a field in Turnadahena Malabe today by the Navagamu police. The remains were discovered during an investigation conducted after receiving information through an emergency phone call. Police suspect that the remains were in the location which they were found for 2 weeks. The cause of the death has not been revealed as yet, and the Navagamu police are conducting further investigations. In the meantime, the Thalangama police apprehended a key associate of the infamous underworld figure and drug trafficker Ponnamperumage Dhanush Buddhika, also known as Angoda Jile. The arrestee is a 30-year-old resident of Battaramulla. At the time of the arrest, the suspect was in possession of 25 grams and 500 milligrams of crystal methamphetamine and 51 grams of Kerala cannabis, along with 274,000 rupees in cash, which is believed to have been earned through the sale of narcotics. In other local news, 27 houses were partially damaged in the Varasmulla area of Hambantota due to the adverse weather yesterday. The houses sustained partial damages from trees collapsing on them due to strong winds.
Now in business news, Sri Lanka Police advises customers of banks not to share their one-time passwords provided by their banks with any third parties. According to police media spokesperson DIG Nihal Talduva, the warnings were issued by taking the serious financial scams that have been reported recently into account. During the recent past, the Sri Lanka Computer Emergency Readiness Team has also requested the public not to provide their OTPs, personal identification details, bank accounts and credit card details to unknown parties, as they have observed a rise in scams. Now on the international front, US consumer spending increased slightly less than expected in August this year, but did little to change expectations that solid economic growth would persist in the third quarter. Meanwhile, the annual rise in prices was the smallest in just over 3.5 years. Strong growth expectations this quarter were underscored by other data from the US Department of Commerce on Friday, showing the goods trade deficit narrowed by the most in nearly 2 years last month. Economists did not view the data as soft enough to compel the Federal Reserve to deliver another 50 basis point interest rate cut in November as hoped by investors. Meanwhile, an elevated saving rate and still strong wage gains are providing a firmer base for consumer spending in the months ahead. As per the US Commerce Department's Bureau of Economic Analysis, consumer spending, which accounts for more than 2/3 of US economic activity, rose 0.2% in August after an unrevised 0.5% gain in July. Spending was concentrated in services, which increased 0.4% in August after advancing 0.3% in July. Outlays on housing and utilities, as well as financial services and insurance, topped the list. And that's all the news we have for you today. Thank you for joining and have a good night.